this was just to give ourselves a couple of opportunities in case we make a mistake or we want to start over again, or if we like this project, we can go ahead and do another one in class. So this is just in case, and this is what we will be working with. As you can see, it's just folded over. It's nothing terribly special. It's probably reminiscent of when we were in elementary school and we made snowflakes. So I want you to think about that, reflect on that, if that was something that you did when you were in elementary school. I mentioned snowflakes, but it is springtime. So this example that I'm going to be sharing with you, and you are free to do in class, is actually going to be about butterflies. So what I did here was I simply drew something that is simple, and I actually recommend to try and keep this exercise simple. Number one, because this is the first time that I'm actually teaching it, and number two, keeping the shape simple and low detail for your first time may render more success. And don't worry, we will go through this in class and I will be there to help you. So I marked it out and I just drew a simple butterfly image, because whatever we cut out here, we will have something on the corresponding side here. I used a Sharpie pen, and these circles are going to indicate where I may want to use my trusty hole punch. If you have a hole punch, please bring it to class, and I will also post a list with your emails so you know what to bring for Tuesday night. You definitely will need your X-Acto, especially when we cut these greater details. Now, if you feel comfortable and you want to delve into more detail, by all means do so, but we're going to hang on to all of these little pieces. And the reason I drew them kind of like blobs, well, they're more biomorphic, they're easy to draw, and also if you want to change your mind as you're cutting, you can, because this is totally abstract and something we'll have a lot of fun with collage this week. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a time lapse, and I'm going to cut this butterfly out. Whenever I do any type of detailed cutting, I usually like working on the most detailed parts on the inside out, depending on the tensile strength of the paper that I'm working with. In this case, it's a pretty good drawing paper with a lot of tooth to it. So I'm just going to start with these pieces, and then I'm going to cut the outline out, and I want to hang on to these pieces. I was even thinking about labeling them, but this should act as my template, because again, we're keeping it simple. There's no great detail going on here. So I should be able to use this as my reference guide when I start building my collage. A few tips for you as you're cutting. You are cutting through 2 plies of paper, so you may have to press down a little bit harder. Good idea to maybe change that X-Acto knife blade. And when you are cutting these corners, and if you've done something that's more circular, you just want to kind of go slow and just move your paper as you go. If you have to lift the blade, go ahead. It's not a big deal. We're not doing anything super exact. It's just, these fun abstract shapes that we're working with. Again, I want to keep them. They are important to me. I'm going to set them off to the side. And these dots, like I said, I'm going to use my hole punch, but I can use my hole punch not necessarily on here, but on the ephemera that I'm going to glue onto the butterfly collage. Now here I have just the shape of the butterfly wings, and in here is a line. So what I'm going to do next is cut through this line, and then I'm going to cut the whole template out. So again, working from the inside, and I start my cut and I just follow the line I created. And if you don't follow the line exactly, again, don't worry about it. This is an abstract butterfly, which means there's room for maybe error or something even better than what you thought you would come up with. I always tend to change gears while I'm working on a collage, especially these drawing type of collages. It lends itself to that, and I just try to let myself go and not be too perfect on it, because it takes all the fun out of collage. So I kind of use this as a guide, but it doesn't have to be exact. For this assignment, it is not exact, so don't worry if you can't commit to the line you drew originally. Do the best you can, but my suggestion also is don't fall in love with what you have on the paper, because you'll probably come up with something that's a lot different. And as you can see, I'm just kind of slowly going along. Please be careful with the X-Acto knife. Keep your fingers away from it. The way I'm doing here, my fingers should never be right here where the blade's coming. Should be always away from the blade. Just go slow, make sure that blade is sharp, and just follow the lines that you drew. If you happen to draw out of those lines, not a big deal. Okay, we are done with this section, and what's going to happen is I'm removing this. We're not completely done yet, but I'm just going to show you what we have. We have this part of the template, which is going to be very important to us very soon. And I open up, and that's what my butterfly wings are so far looking like. Hang on to this, do not throw this away, and we're going to cut the rest of this out. I can use my trusty scissors for that one, and I'm going to do it really quick here. Again, follow the line the best I can. I'm not going to beat myself up if I deviate from it. And just try to keep that paper together. That's why we have the second piece of cardstock folded over in case I accidentally cut it. It's like, it's still not a big deal, and you still should be able to work with what you have. But just cut the best you can. I'll get to this inner part later with my X-Acto knife because it's a little hard to get with my scissors. And I'm just going to keep that cut going. And I want to try and maintain the folded area, keeping everything. I don't want to cut straight through to here. I don't want to lose my template. I'm going to keep going. I will say that sometimes with these projects, the more contrast you have with size, like with these blobby things I did, that can be really interesting when you start building your collage, because you'll just have a contrast of size and then you'll have contrast of color, and it's really cool. So now we have the butterfly. Ooh, I gotta get this part out too. So I'm just gonna go really quick with, well, not really quick with my X-Acto. I wanna be careful. Got plenty of time here. I cut the rest of this out just so. I'm not making it as thin as I originally drew it. That's fine because, again, I'm just changing course here a little bit. And I got a little curve going on here. You do not have to do a butterfly for your collage this week. You can do anything you want. I chose the butterfly because it's actually fairly easy, and everybody knows what a butterfly looks like, and there's not too much detail that you have to worry about. So that is done. I'm throwing that part away. We have this left over. I don't think I'm going to need any more. I'm just going to set it off to the side. And here's the rest of that. And this is possibly something you're going to use as well. Don't throw anything away. So we have some wonderful pieces that we're going to be working with. Will they all become collages? Technically, yes, they can. So we're going to work one at a time to keep this from being confusing. I'm going to set this guy off to the side. We're going to look at this one next. I'm creating a palette here that has a lot of purple. I love purple, I love pink. And speaking of purple, what we like to concentrate on again are those contrasts. And the color that contrasts best with purple is yellow. So I grabbed some yellow, and I'm going to just kind of set that off to the side, but I want to get my palette ready before I start gluing on my butterfly. Oh, here he is. I'm going to set him over here. So I got my purples going on here. I may or may not be using them. I chose as much ephemera as I could. Get all of that ready because I'm going to start gluing and cutting here pretty quick. Now I'm looking at the outline of my butterfly, And in thinking of the outline of my butterfly, I'm considering maybe a darker purple, like something like this maybe. And we're gonna go ahead and get started with that. I have to get my glue ready. I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit. And you will be needing the Mod Podge for this project. Packing tape probably won't help us too much yet. Probably not at all. So I'm going to go ahead and get my glue ready. This is also a case of when your wax paper may come in handy when you're dealing with something as delicate as this. So it doesn't all have to be one color, the outline of my butterfly, maybe just sections of it. And so this is what I'm going to do. Just going to cut some sections out, get my glue ready. A little bit, not too much, on my smaller brush. And on top of my wax paper, so I don't get it on my mat, and I keep it kind of clean, I'm just going to go ahead and brush it on. Just brush it on, nothing crazy, just enough to make it kind of tacky. I'm going to lift it up from here so it doesn't stick too much. It's not going to stick to the wax paper, but I just want to take it easy also. That's where I get a little heavy-handed with my adhesive. So here I have this lovely darkness, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it again. And I'm just going to lay it on here, like this. Just lay it on, so I don't see any white paper. I'm talking funny because I have my paintbrush in my mouth. Okay, I'm going to put it like that. And maybe layer it a little bit, overlap it with this piece, just like this. Okay, so those two pieces are glued on, and I'm just going to give it a few minutes, not even a few minutes, to dry. Give my brush, my now dirty brush, I'm just going to put it in some water and let it rest there. I'll also have a paper towel nearby, which I can dry it off with in a second. So I'm just going to let my brush dry off a little bit because I'm going to be using it again a lot. Okay, so I got this here. I'm going to lift it up and look at it. And with my scissors, I'm just going to cut around where the template is. And if I happen to cut a little bit too much, again, it's okay. This does not have to be perfect because it's an abstract butterfly. And we're abstract collages today. I'm going to set this off to the side. I want to cut off this excess. And I'm going to do that. Be careful with the X-Acto. I almost cut myself a little bit just there. And go. Gonna cut again. Okay. That part, that's stuck a little bit. I can always flip it over, and you can see it's almost done. Well, that part is almost done. And you have created, I think, something that looks kind of fun, kind of cool, and I'm anxious to see how this butterfly is going to work out. So I'm going to make a darker line around this butterfly. So I'm just going to stay with that dark indigo, dark blue, dark purple color all the way around. I'm going to finish it up off camera, and these other little pieces are also going to be playing a part in what I do next. So I'm going to finish this part and I'll be right back. Actually, before I continue, I just want to let you know what I think will be helpful is I went ahead and just cut up a bunch of the darker pieces that I know I will want to use on the outline of my butterfly before I even start gluing, so I can work a little faster. This is just a personal preference on how I use my ephemera. I like to have my palette ready to go. I'm going to mix and match different pieces, but they're going to be similar because I want them to match both wings. I'm not going to use exact imagery from, exact imagery right here and exact imagery right here, because that's too much and this is an abstract butterfly. But I just have everything ready to go because it'll make the workflow go a little bit faster. The outline of this butterfly is taking a little bit longer than I anticipated. What I'm doing is I'm just pasting down as I'm going, bits and pieces, and then I'm trimming them off every so often once the glue has dried. But it is taking a little longer than I thought it would. Never fear though, I will have it done by the end of the video. I have the template to work from and I'm simply cutting around that template my excess ephemera, which I will hang on to so I have enough to finish this outline. Again, I want my outline to be darker because I believe the inside of the butterfly wings, I want to play with different lighter colors, maybe some pinks, and of course that yellow for contrast. Green is also a wonderful contrast for purple, so it's something to keep in mind. I do like the way this works out, and for those of you who like the ripped look, that would work really well here. I tend to keep things on a straight line, but the ripped look would probably be even more abstract and more natural looking. Whew, okay, the outline is done. That took me a lot longer than I thought it would. I really love the way it turned out. I even managed to get a little face in there. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I am moving on to the rest of the template, which is kind of filling in this part. So this might be a little easier and a little faster. And this is just what I would do. You can do anything that you wish. But I'm thinking about maybe a lighter color to bounce off this darker outline. Maybe this is where the yellow can come into play. So I'm going to search for something off camera and see what I come up with. I could not find anything that was straight yellow, so I may do some patchwork, if you will, of other magazine ephemera. I'm okay with it because it's going to be covered up anyway by other things on here. The yellow background is not the focal point of the butterfly, but rather the imagery, the little blobs that are going to go here and there, and of course these little dots. So I have over here the little blobs, kind of kept them off to the side, and they're going to definitely be incorporated. I'm not sure if I'm going to maintain what I was doing here and put them, actually I think that's upside down. Yeah, so I have these different spaces and I have corresponding pieces that should match right here. So I think I'll try to get them back where they belong. Let's see, okay, that's gonna help too because this has an outline, so I'm gonna go ahead and put them back where they belong, figure out where everything's supposed to go before I start collaging these little pieces. You don't have to do this, and this is just me trying to stay organized. I went ahead and each of the little pieces that I'm going to be applying to the butterfly that I'm getting ready to collage here, I just wrote a little note to myself where I want it to go, and it's in my own shorthand, and also indicating which side I want to collage and which side is going to be the back. It actually makes a difference. I wouldn't worry about it too much. And again, this is something that I do, and it's not right, it's not wrong. but it does help me. So I know it's hard to see these little bitty pieces on this white background, but they're ready to go. I glued them down on the back of this collage paper, and I'm just going to trim them out. This hopefully will be faster than what I dealt with when I was doing the outline of the butterfly, because these are just shapes, and we'll see how they come out. Again, I don't need them to be absolutely perfect, but I'm going to try to get as close as I can to them being perfect, and if I deviate from it, not a big deal. Now, both of these pieces go up into the top of the butterfly here, and I'm going to try and match whichever side of the butterfly, the piece, the corresponding pieces, I'd like them to have the same type of ephemera. So I'm going to see first of all if I'm going to have enough and how successful that'll be. So I'm going to go ahead and work on these two wings. I'm looking at this piece of paper, very pretty. I think I want to stay with a darker color, so again, it contrasts with that yellow background. And I'm going to cut out the stuff I don't want, like the text and the white border. Again, just going to show you what I'm doing. The little blobs I'm going to be working with. If I have a check on the back, it means don't put collage on that. So these are the sides that I want to glue. And I'm just taking just enough glue to adhere everything. Spill my water. Enough glue so it stays, but not so much that it wrinkles my paper. Actually, the brush shouldn't be saturated with the glue. Maybe enough to just make that area sticky. So I want to use the same ephemera for both these pieces, and I'm just going to put them on here because I'm pleased with how everything looks. And I want to use it, so I'm just going to place them however they'll fit so I can get them on. They should be on pretty good. I'll give them another smoothing here, just my fingertips, because they're tiny pieces. Close my glue jar. Get my brush into some water. Smooth this out. And then the fun part, and actually the easiest part, is just cutting them out using the shape as my guide. Not a big deal. And if I cut into the shape a little bit, again, not a big deal. It's an abstract butterfly. And it's actually kind of soothing cutting this way and satisfying because the ephemera is adhered to this drawing paper. It's where it will live now. Get the corners, and the cut can be fairly clean, and I'm not using the X-Acto knife here. I mean, I could totally use the X-Acto knife if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. This is how I'm going to proceed until I'm finished. Actually, this one is Q2, so I say Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 for quadrants. I think this is Q3. Just that's my little shorthand on these pieces, and then a check mark meaning don't put collage on this side, put it on the other side. And it really helps me when I do these kind of collage projects, just to keep everything in place. Some of my collage pieces, and I will actually link them in your video here so you can view them at your leisure because they're longer videos. My drawing collage videos tend to be really long, and they're real because they're very detailed. The couple I did of the Buddha, and that's where that came from. That is how I am putting the collage material onto these little pieces. Super easy. I think it's really fun. And I'm just going to go ahead and finish this butterfly so when we come back, when we return, unless I have something else I want to tell you, it'll be done. So this is my final product. I went ahead and added a thorax and a butterfly head. No antennas, it's a little much at this point. It's a couple more details I added were just some stamps and some hole punches. Even the stamps, like the number 3 on the 3-cent vintage Lincoln stamp, I cut those out. That was tedious, but I wanted to do it, and I wanted the contrast and also contrast with size, because then the hole punch is awesome, but it's the same size. You may want to start with something simple that you feel you can handle, because otherwise it can get overwhelming when you're trying a new technique and you want to take on something that's really challenging. Here are some other ones that I was playing with. Again, it's just that same technique. I like using the snowflake fold, just folding and just cutting, and that is also something you may want to think about, just doing a snowflake, just something completely abstract. It doesn't even have to mimic a creature, a butterfly, or anything like that. And I still have these pieces, and I could turn these into other collages also. Think about that color palette. I recommend concentrating on one color, collecting all the blues that you want, all the purples that you want, or whatever color you want, and then think about that contrasting color to make this project work for you.